That's the big M. That's the big M guys creating more problems again, isn't it?
Right. It's that, and then one of the things I like to say, because the jury's still out on the effects of GMOs in the body. There's talk about gut health and immune health and things of that nature.
Right.
But the fact that major corporations now own the patents on these seeds, so that the farmer is now kind of forced to go back to these farmers. To me, that's where, if someone came to me and said it's inconclusive on the health risks of GMOs, I would still argue that, once a major organization, a major company owns the patent on food, then the game changes.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be very fair. And I believe you're not. I believe it's illegal to patent nature, and yet they seem to be doing that, don't they?
Yes, and and what they do is the seeds are sterile. So, for example, the soybean seed that is sold to farmers is a sterile seed, so the farmer can't use the seed year after year. They have to go back to the big pharma and say, hey, I need to buy more seeds this year. And I don't know if you know this, but if that crop, since they own the patent on that crop, if it blows on another farmer's property, then there's some legal risks as to really, since they own that product, they own and it goes onto another farmer's property, then they're claiming that they now own that.
Even if the wind can blow it onto it.
Even if the wind blows it over there.
I have heard that. That is ridiculous. And let's just say what it is. It's Monsanto. Welcome, everyone, to the Whole Truth Podcast with John Levine, sponsored by Dean's Natural Food Markets, with 5 locations now in Ocean, Shrewsbury, Basking Ridge, Chester, and Metuchen, New Jersey. Since 1996, my man, Dean Nelson, founder and owner of Dean's Natural Food Markets, has been offering the best selection of 100% organic produce and all-natural non-GMO groceries and bulk foods. They also have a wide selection of local products, an organic juice bar, vitamins, supplements, health and beauty products, and more and more and more and more. A lot of good stuff. Hey, my man, how are you?
Thanks for having me. This is incredible.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I've been
excited
pumped
to be
up.
here.
I'm excited to have you. And you know what? Let's start by saying my wife met you. She shops at your stores. We have to be authentic. So she's not here today, but she kind of is. I have the Polish Eagle. I'm supporting Poland, so I had to wear my Polish shirt. So Anya, if you're listening, when you watch, you're here with us. She's like, tell Dean this and talk about that. And I'm like, why don't you come on the show? She's like, no. And I'm like, all right.
Now she's always incredibly pleasant and even keel. She's serving her as an honor, really. Serving people is an honor, but serving people who appreciate what we do makes us want to be better every day. So I'm grateful for your support, and it's always a pleasure to see Anya and your kids. Your kids are beautiful kids. They're well behaved.
Thank you very much.
I like riling them up when I'm in Shrewsbury and I see them. I like trying to get them riled up a little bit, but they're pretty even keel.
Well, my daughter's even keel. My boys can get riled up quickly. And then, so you're the one that riles them up and sends them back over to me.
I love it. I tell the kids, listen, do me a favor for the rest of the day. Drive your mom absolutely nuts.
Oh, my God. They do a good job of that, but they're fantastic.
My kids are 26. They're still doing it.
They are. That's right. You boys.
Never
26 and how old are you?
I have twin boys, 26-year-old boys. Yeah.
Oh, they're twins.
Yep.
Boys will be boys.
Oh, my God.
We got to be boys, brother.
Oh, my God, man.
Yeah. So that's the connection. It's so funny because, Anya has been shopping at Dean's Natural Food Markets, and this is not a plug. This is just, honesty. That's the connection here. That's how we met.
Right.
And it's funny because I didn't bump into you. I've been there a lot, but it's mainly my wife that's shopping there, and she's like, I bumped into Dean. And finally I reached out to you a couple months back, and I'm like, how do I not know you? I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
We've got to connect. And I got to meet with you a couple of times, and you get deep. We're going to get it.
I'm a pretty deep guy.
You are a deep guy. But I first want to, so how did you get started? So 1996, you're kind of like, you're pretty humble. So, but in 1996, what was organic? Like, how were you even thinking about putting together an organic food store? And because this is kind of new, like in the last decade, I feel.
Yeah. So it really started more with the desire to serve people. I've always loved serving people, and that was something that created a lot of purpose in my life for a lot of different reasons earlier on than the reasons that I serve now. So it wasn't so much about what I was doing as opposed to how I was doing it. But once I started working in a natural food store, I started meeting these amazing people who were making conscious decisions all the time. I mean, back then, 25 years ago, bringing your own grocery bags to the store and
Right.
making conscious decisions to buy organic food, which was more expensive. All those things were new to me, and I didn't know what quinoa was, and I mean, kale and all these things. But I started to learn, and the customers were so inspiring. And then I learned more and more. I was really into exercise, so I was eating well. I had cut most meat proteins out of my diet prior to even being in the natural food business. And then once I started realizing some things, I started to refine my diet even more. And then, it's been a journey. So it's been a journey from understanding the importance of organic and the impact on our environment, and then serving people and just being inspired by people all the time. It's been an amazing journey. And now that the products are pretty much in everybody's home, I mean, that's all we could ever ask, is that people have good, healthy food in their homes.
Yeah, so you worked at a natural food market first when you were younger?
Yes.
And so when you met these people, you just saw something where you...
Well, going way back, my dad was an exercise. My dad died in a tragic accident at the age of 42, but he was an absolute exercise junkie.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay. That's okay. There's gratitude in everything, and I'm grateful for the years that I had with him. But he was drinking raw eggs and Shockley shakes, and running 4 miles a day and rowing 4 miles a day. I mean, he was an absolute exercise freak, so I probably inherited a little bit of that from him.
Oh yeah, sounds like it.
My mom actually died, a few years later, but she actually worked in a health food store until she passed away. So it was probably in my genes a little bit.
Sure.
So it was a natural transition for me. And then my career kind of came to a crossroads, and I had an opportunity to go work in a store and manage it. And I fell in love with it. It was just an amazing experience, and I did that for 2.5 years, and decided to go out on my own. And this was in the early to mid 90s. There wasn't a lot going on. I mean, they weren't natural food stores; they were health food stores, and they were 1,000 square feet in a dusty corner somewhere. And I decided I thought that I could kind of shape the clay the way I thought it should be shaped in terms of the products and the service and everything. And it's just been an amazing journey ever since. Created jobs for people, and helped change the food industry and create awareness for people. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, I could tell the passion when I first met you, and that's when I said, we have to work together, get you on the show, and do this together. And so what I think there's a lot of people out there that probably say to themselves, why do I have to shop organic when I can go to my local food store, my conventional shop market, and get food that way? So what is really the difference between organic kale and organic apple and your conventional apple and kale and everything else for them? What's the difference? What's the difference?
Well, on the most basic level, I mean, organic produce is not raised with pesticides or herbicides, so you're getting a cleaner product. Farmers use alternative means to actually fool bugs and insects, so they'll rotate crop, they'll focus more on seasonality and things like that. So at the most basic level, you're not getting food that's been sprayed or contaminated with pesticides or herbicides, which of course is better for the environment. It's more sustainable for farmers. It's actually more profitable to be an organic farmer, even though it's a laborious process to get
It's more
certified.
profitable?
Yeah, there's much better profit margins in organic produce than in conventional produce. Absolutely. There's a lot of government subsidies on conventional produce, and there's not a lot on the organic side. But organic farmers, they make commitments and sacrifices, and as a result of it, I believe that they're more profitable. I know the profit margins are better. So.
No kidding. We started a little farm not a little farm, a little garden a little garden in our backyard, and man, it's organic, and
of course,
and the bugs, and I don't know much about gardening, and the bugs got to it big time, And I realized right then and there how hard it is
Right.
to raise organic food. It is no joke.
Right.
I had someone helping me out, and then I said, no, I got this. And I thought I had a good handle on it. I did not have a good handle on it. Next thing you know, the Brussels sprouts, the broccoli, you name it, like they got it. I mean, the bugs got to eat too, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So you see, like, you could see, I'm not supporting pesticides by any stretch, but you could see how some people would be like, well, what am I supposed to do here? I have no food to
Right.
eat. So
Right.
how do you get those, like, can you use essential oils? Like, how do you get the bugs off?
Well, peppermint, you can actually use peppermint, but
Yeah.
one of the things people do, believe it or not, a big deterrent are ladybugs. So what a lot of farmers do is they actually use ladybugs that eat the other insects and don't actually eat a lot of the produce. And then there's crop rotation. So if one particular insect feeds on one particular crop, they constantly rotate that crop in different areas of the farm, and it actually confuses the bugs, and by the time they catch on, the farmer is harvested, and then they just complete that cycle. And there are things that they can put
Yeah.
into the soil that aren't necessarily toxic, so it's not like they're being unbelievably pure in terms of not doing anything. And then there's the other aspect of it. There's aquaponics and hydroponics, which are grown indoors.
Right.
So that really gives a lot more control to farmers as well.
Now, is USDA organic? Is that still have the same quality that it used to have? I have heard from other doctors and experts that is not quite what it used to be. That there's still allowed to have some sort of pesticides and other things introduced.
Well, USDA is the gold standard now. It used to be an organization called QAI, which was Quality Insurance, and then there was the California Organic Foods Act of 1991, which were kind of the standards in organic. But, when I see the USDA Organic, at least it gives me the confidence that there has been some supervision. And once in a while, a customer will say, well, how do we know your products are organic? They say organic, and it doesn't happen very often. But we'll actually go back to the farmer and ask for their certifications from the government, and they'll provide those to us, and we'll provide them to the customers.
That's awesome. So I know, I know you, and we've been shopping with you for a long time. So it's kind of a no-brainer. We go there, and we don't really question what's in the store because we know that there's
Right.
quality control. We know that you care, and we know that you don't let anything that's GMO, anything like that, into the store. But for those that don't have like a Dean's near them, if they're in Minnesota, Oklahoma, wherever it may be, what labels should they look for, and what are the red flag labels that are kind of like, that's nonsense, that type thing? And I brought in a couple things that we have gotten from your store. This is Made Good, Apple Cinnamon, Granola Minis, and there's all sorts of labels all over the place. Because I think it gets confusing, right? There's tons of labels. There's 5 labels I'm looking at here. But there's the NonGMO Verified label. That's a big one, right?
That's second to certified organic. That's the gold standard. So for our stores, if a product has a high-risk ingredient, and there aren't very many high-risk ingredients, contrary to what people believe, there are some genetically modified products being produced in other countries that have yet to make it into this country. But if I see in our store, if it has a high-risk ingredient, then it has to be either USDA certified or it has to be verified by the NonGMO Project, which is a third-party, nonprofit organization that does the verifications on GMO products.
NonGMO Verified is a third-party, unbiased, independent.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. But there was an article in the New York Times a couple of years ago, and it said it says GMO labeling is the frenemy of organic, because what happens is if a customer isn't, or if a consumer isn't educated,
Right.
then what happens is now all of a sudden a farmer can grow a product that has pesticides and herbicides but is not genetically modified. So then the question becomes, well, now a farmer can grow a product that is not genetically modified but isn't organic. But if they get that verification, people say, "Oh, this is not verified by the Non-GMO Project. It's got to be a great product." Meanwhile, the product next to it on the shelf is certified organic, which is a completely different animal. So it's a very fine line now between consumers understanding the difference between GMO and the difference between organic. A product can be have pesticides and herbicides, and still be non-GMO verified.
That's kind of weird, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's weird. It's confusing. It's confusing for the average consumer. I mean, the zealot organic consumer
Right.
understands the difference, and that's where a good natural food store, whether it be Dean's or any other store, that's where the staff on the floor can give that customer the education and say, well, this is the difference between these products. One of the things that I like to say to our teams when, people come in from the conventional market, they say, if you're in a conventional market, what's the difference between ronzoni and ragu? I mean, there may not be, there's no reason to know the difference. But in our stores, there's differences between all the products. And it's our responsibility to educate ourselves, number one, and to educate our customers, number two.
What are those high-risk ingredients that you were talking about before?
So that would be alfalfa, papaya, corn, soy, canola, and sugar beets.
Corn, soy,
Right.
canola, sugar beets, and what were the other ones? Alfalfa?
Alfalfa and papaya.
And those high risk because they're
Those
genetically
those
modified?
are genetically modified and available in our country. So those are the bad ones.
Wait.
And just so you know, it's the percentages are incredible when it comes to the corn and soy. So it's like 94% of all corn and soy, 94% in this country is genetically modified.
94%
Yeah, it's very, very, very high.
of corn and soy.
Correct. Yeah, very high.
It's got, listen, to each his own. Everyone do what you want. But for me, it's gotten to the point where I know it's so, I didn't realize it was that high, but it's so high and it's such a potential disaster that I don't even eat corn and soy. I'm not telling people not to eat corn and not to eat soy. I don't. Just because it's such a potential troublemaker that I just like, if it's in there, I avoid it.
Right.
That's just my take on it. But so that's the big M. That's the big M guys creating more problems again, isn't it?
Right. It's that, and then one of the things I like to say, because the jury's still out on the the effects of GMOs in the body. There's talk about gut health and immune health and things of that nature.
Right.
But the fact that major corporations now own the patents on these seeds, so that the farmer is now kind of forced to go back to these farmers. To me, that's where, if someone came to me and said it's inconclusive on the health risks of GMOs, I would still argue that, once a major organization, a major company owns the patent on food, then the game changes.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be very fair. And I believe you're not supposed. I believe it's illegal to patent nature, and yet
Yeah,
they seem to be doing that, don't they?
Yes, and and what they do is the seeds are sterile. So, for example, the soybean seed that is sold to farmers is a sterile seed, so the farmer can't use the seed year after year. They have to go back to the big pharma and say, hey, I need to buy more seeds this year. And I don't know if you know this, but if that crop, since they own the patent on that crop, if it blows on another farmer's property, then there's some legal risks as to really, since they own that product, they own and it goes onto another farmer's property, then they're claiming that they now own that.
Even if the wind can blow it onto it.
Even if the wind blows it over there.
I have heard that. That is ridiculous. And let's just say what it is. It's Monsanto. I mean, come on. Let's just. I'll say it. I'll be the one to say it. It's Monsanto.
I don't like the
evil, nasty bastards, and that's just the way it is. I'll stick my neck out there.
I don't like to think that there's that type of evil in the world. I just find, I think somewhere someone's in a lab justifying the ability to feed, an incredibly a vast increasing population. And I just ask that it be done transparently. I mean, to me, it's all about transparency. We're one of the few civilized countries left that does not have labeling. In fact, there's some potential labeling coming out, and I actually sat in on a webinar on it last week, and I was like, wow, this is really not kosher labeling. I mean, it's terrible. How they're dumbing it down. It was pretty unbelievable what they are proposing to put versus not put.
Well, to your point, I happen to agree with you. I don't think that there's anyone. I don't believe that Monsanto is actually purposely trying to do bad things, but I do think things have gotten done in a way where bad things are happening, and it's gotten to become a big machine, and it's not stopping. So yeah, I don't think that there's a couple people who are like, yeah, let's devise a plan to like,
Right,
you know, make
right.
everyone sick. No, no one's doing that. But it's become a problem, and it's got to be stopped because you know there is some evidence out there. We won't get into all the there's studies and all sorts of stuff, and that's a whole nother show.
Right.
But
Listen, at the end of the day, I believe people have a right to know what's in their food.
yeah,
They should be educated. It's all about choice, right? If they want to be educated,
right.
there's forums to be educated. And at the end of the day, I think people have a right to know what's in their food. And knowledge in life is a very, very powerful thing. So knowledge changes things. And I encourage people. My line is you vote with your dollar. So every time you buy a product, you're endorsing it, and every time you don't buy a product, you're endorsing it. And one of the things that's amazing about the Non-GMO Project is when I first got involved with them, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, whatever it was, there might have been a few hundred products that were non-GMO verified. Now there are tens and tens and tens of thousands, and even conventional mass market products now have that logo on there because people realize that, my feeling is I have an opportunity to change the food industry. If I don't carry a product, we're now going to be five locations, and we're certainly not a large company, but we're a decent sized company.
Yeah.
And if someone comes in and says, I can't sell made good because it has a high risk ingredient, and then the sales rep goes back to the manufacturer and says, hey, listen, I want to get this product into Dean's and I can't. And if enough retailers do that, then the manufacturer has to say, something, if I want to get into some of these key locations, I'm going to have to take a look at my ingredients. And that's how we change the system. We don't scream and yell and, throw our arms up and down. We do it by trying to educate and influence. No. I used to.
You should have seen me this morning. I'm just kidding with you. I wasn't really doing that.
So it's just a matter of education and change. And, the world is becoming more conscious, and there are, the education is getting out there more than it ever has before. And it's as quickly as we want it to happen. The bottom line is it's going to take time.
It's going to take time. Everything takes time, but that's what we're doing here. And that's why you're on the show. That's why I started this, because I decided, I have a lot of knowledge. I'm not an expert, but, I have a lot of knowledge. My family lives a certain way. How do I, the more knowledge I get, good quality knowledge, I need to be able to share that. I needed to inspire people with health experts and people like you who have been doing this a long time, and that's how we make the change, to give them good information. So, as far as knowledge, it's funny. I've always been an athlete. I played basketball, baseball, football. I was always running around. If I wasn't doing that, I was lifting weights in the gym, running a marathon, and constantly doing something. And yet, I didn't think about my diet, and I didn't have the knowledge. I actually no one taught me ever good nutrition.
Right.
It was just kind of standard, conventional. This is what you did. This is, you open up the kitchen cabinet and it was Twinkies or whatever the hell crap was in there.
Right.
So it wasn't my fault. What was I supposed to do? I didn't know any different. No one sat me down and said, hey, look, this is organic, this is non-organic, this is dark leafy greens, this belongs in your body, this is fake, it's made in a lab, comes off a conveyor belt. No one ever sat me down. Eventually, I got to the point where I actually started asking questions, and at least I was open-minded to find out, to get this information. So I was the same guy.
Right.
I was the same guy. It wasn't until, I was in high blood pressure I was selling high blood pressure medication. And my dad got sick. He was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer and Parkinson's. And, it's weird, but it took that situation for me to start looking at things a little deeper and say, what's going on here? Like with the quick pill, the fast food, the fast pill. I always go back to that. This doesn't seem to be work. It seems to be keeping us sick. And so, I delved into things more and more and more. I'm getting a little off track, but I want people to understand that I was the same guy. I played pickup basketball. I'm playing pickup basketball tonight. I used to be the guy who walked in with the Gatorade, the blue, the green, the red, and God knows what other colors.
Artificial food.
Yeah, and listen, if you want to drink Gatorade out there, drink Gatorade. I'm just saying, know what you're drinking. So I had a friend, and I'm grateful for him as well. He would come in with honey water and chia seeds. He was that guy who was like, and I would be like,
we made fun of those guys back in the day.
I made fun of him. He was my buddy, but I was like, what are you doing? But in a way, I did want to know what he was doing. He's like, oh, keep drinking what you're drinking, and you'll see. And I would always come in with protein bars. I would eat protein bars all the time because you know why? They're fast, they're quick.
That's right.
The fast, quick stuff is usually the stuff that's kind of getting us in trouble, right? He finally took one after he never pushed, but he finally took a wrapper out and he said, read this and tell me what it is. And I couldn't pronounce it. It was propylene glycol or some crap. And he's like, just go look it up. And again, I want to emphasize he did not push. It was me asking. So then I went back and I looked and I found that the propylene glycol and glycogen, it was in the chemical dictionary. And I'm like, wait a minute, doesn't make any sense. It's a chemical because it's a chemical. It's not food. It's actually a chemical. Right. And then I saw what was in it. It was in antifreeze and all sorts. Then he's like, all right, read this book. I read this book, this documentary, Forks Over Knives. I read the China study.
Great movie, Forks Over Knives.
Yeah, Forks Over Knives. I mean, every documentary and every tons books. The China study, I went nuts. And finally, I just had a breakdown. I literally read so much. I did so much research that I threw my wife's beauty products out. I went. It was 3:00 in the morning, and I took everything out of the bathroom. Everything out. Every soap, every shampoo that I now know has chemicals in it, and that is dangerous. And I put it in a hefty bag and I put it out by the curb. And Anya woke up the next morning and she was like, and you know my wife, she's sweet. Yep. She doesn't get really mad. And she was like, what the hell did you do? And I'm like, you don't understand. You can't.
I did you a favor.
I did you a favor. I'm like, you don't
and
get it.
I did your children a favor.
Right. And this is before we even had kids.
Right.
So she didn't know either. So this long rant, there's a purpose to it. She didn't know either. So I got the knowledge, then she got the knowledge, and then off and running, and we started shopping with you, and now we have that knowledge. If I decide to eat something else, at least I know what I'm doing.
Right.
So to your point, people should have the choice and the knowledge. So I totally agree with Monsanto as far as you know what, if you don't want to eat corn and soy, if you don't want a GMO, you should be able to eat something that's, nature made without messing around with it. You know what I mean?
Well, one of the challenges is the way products are marketed, right? I mean, the word natural, what's natural? So before we destroy it in a lab, everything is natural.
Right.
So the average consumer sees that word and they see, a label that has a farm and a rolling landscape on it, and instantly they relate to it and said, this has to be good for me. And the truth of the matter is it's just all marketing.
It's marketing.
And you asked a question about what should people look for. Learn about ingredients, hydrogenated oils and trans fats and, red dyes and yellow dyes and things like that. When you see those ingredients in there, then somewhere along the line this thing got mutated. When you see breads that have to be enriched because all the nutrients are taken out to the point where they need to be kind of put back in again to actually make it food. Yeah. Those are the type of things you need to look at.
Yeah, well, that's when it becomes, it's not food anymore, really.
Right.
Yeah. White bread, right? White bread, you've stripped out the nutrients. It's kind of, I get it. It's marketing and it's big business, but you really have taken out all the nutrients and then you've put back in chemicals. You've bleached it and you've...
And empty calorie foods, what I call non-functional foods tend to be inexpensive, which is a problem because the truth of the matter is that, organic foods are significantly more expensive. They're not affordable to everybody, which should be the opposite, right? Should be the other way around. We should be trying to provide people with the healthiest food possible.
Right.
It's going to reduce medical risk. You made a comment a few minutes ago. I used to call it the Tylenol mentality. Something's not right, pop a pill, I feel better in 10 minutes, as opposed to understanding the why behind it. And once you start to explore and discover, then you don't take as much for granted, and you become more inquisitive, and that's when the real journey begins, as to what am I putting in my body, what am I doing to the planet, what am I feeding my children, what organizations am I supporting, what big companies am I supporting. And I just want to be clear, we sell 14, 15,000 items. I don't know what the number is, but not everything in our store is going to, you're not going to live to 120 with everything you eat. We sell products that have organic sugar, or they play games with the words. to try to fool you, milled cane, things like that. So we carry a lot of products that
I've
have
never
a lot,
heard that one. Milled cane?
It's funny.
What the heck is that?
Milled cane was a term that Stonyfield used. I remember when I started, there wasn't sugar in products. I mean, these were really, really clean products.
Oh, they didn't add in sugar?
Back in the day, back when Hirschfeld owned Stonyfield before he sold it to Dannon.
No kidding.
So I remember they were like the first ones, and all of a sudden we get this product and it says milled cane, and we're kind of standing around scratching our heads saying, "What the hell is milled cane?" And they were one of the first companies that I remember when they were one of the first companies that like added sugar, but did it kind of in a very indiscreet way, and the terms change over the years, but you go into a store like ours, you're still going to find products. Fat is a good thing. Like people think, when fat is taken out of food, typically there's something added to give it flavor, because flavor comes from spices, fat, right, sugars and things of that nature.
Right.
So, and there's naturally occurring sugars that are healthy for you. So, when we pull all those things out, we have to put something else in to give it a flavor profile, or we're not going to eat it.
Just leave the damn
Yeah.
food alone. And so thank you for that naturally occurring sugar that you brought in this morning for me and Ming. Ming and I should say. So these apples, you brought some in, and I love my apples.
Yep,
So
me
what
too.
kind
I'm
of
an apple
apples
guy.
are these?
Honey Crisps.
Honey Crisps?
So they're my favorite.
Toss this, baby. Honey Crisps. Look at this, sweetheart.
Yep.
Oh, there's nothing added in this baby. This is what you eat right here.
That's it, man. That's it.
You know what the ingredient?
That's my 11:30 snack every day. My diet, I have a very regimented diet. So that's my 11:30 eat every single day.
I got to be careful with my throat.
It throws a curveball. And it's a great snack.
Yeah.
It's a great snack.
Whole foods. Like whole plant foods.
That's it. My wife says, and you have some boxes and bags here. My wife says, if it comes in a box or a bag, don't eat it. I mean, you almost can't help it. But the majority of your food should not come from a box or a bag. The majority of your food should come from, plants and vegetables. And if you eat meat proteins, then meat proteins.
Yeah.
Fish and salmon and halibut, things like that. If it's in a box, even if it's organic, doesn't mean that it wasn't processed. Tofu is highly processed. Soybean, from the soybean, that's a highly processed food. So it's also a high allergen food.
Yeah, well, to simplify it, to dumb it down, it's just leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Food, real food, whole plant foods should just be left alone.
Right.
I don't know how else to say it. Leave it alone. Mother Nature made it perfect, just the way it is. An apple's ingredient is apple.
Right.
Broccoli's ingredient is broccoli. It's just broccoli. So I agree with your wife. But that being said, let's be realistic, because people are going to, so these are better choices. So I did bring these in from my house, but there are better choices. So there's certainly foods like Mary's Gone Crackers. I mean, these we like. I mean, yes, they are processed, but at least there's it's whole grain, there's chia seeds, and there's some seeds in there. It's not loaded with.
Right. It's gluten-free, so for those people that have a gluten sensitivity.
Yeah, there's better options for faster food, right?
Right.
Compared to and this is some of the stuff you find in the store, which again, in this fast-paced world, if you're running around and you don't have an apple and.
Well, that's a line I hear quite often. I'm pretty fortunate. I get to work in a food store every day, and when I want something to eat, I get to go out and make the best choice I can make, even if I'm indulging a little bit. But people say, I'm on the road all the time, I'm on the go all the time. You can still that's not an excuse to not make a conscious choice as to what you put in your body. Like you said, you can throw. There are some clean bars out there. If you're a snack type of person, there are some decent products out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even that's an alternative. Just watch the calories, watch the carbohydrates, depending on what you're looking to.
Watch the milled cane.
Watch the milled cane.
Watch the milled cane. Yeah, there's better options. So tell me, what was this webinar? So we got off of this webinar. There's a new thing going on. This GMO.
I forget what the acronym was, but basically it was the government's attempt to pacify, the GMO movement and also, big business. And it was pretty interesting. So, for example, and I'm going to screw this up, but I'm going to give you, because it was coming at me fast and furious. And
But this is just yesterday, right?
This was no, it was I think it was Thursday of last week.
Oh, so it's new information.
So, if an ingredient, first of all, if a animal, if you have chicken soup and the animal and the chicken consume GMO feed, they don't have to tell you that. So I don't know if you know this, but
no.
organic proteins, the animals need to be fed organic food, organic grains, organic.
Right. So they're saying now if a chicken
Right.
ate GMO food, they don't have to disclose it?
Correct. And also, and this is where I may be a little fuzzy, but let's say you get a can of soup and the first ingredient is chicken stock and the second ingredient is corn. As long as the primary ingredient is not genetically modified, then they don't have to label
Yeah,
it
see,
that
that's
way.
bullshit. That's the shit that gets me mad. And you don't like the cursing. I'll edit that out. But that
No,
I don't
love
like.
it. No, go ahead,
I
man.
don't
Be
like
you-
that.
be
That-
you, man.
That's not cool at all. Like that's where people go wrong. That's not cool.
But it's being challenged, and
Yeah.
that's the good thing. So the people that are lobbying for labeling are saying no, that doesn't work for us. And there were a lot of other amendments that they were looking to get in there, and from what I understand, they were getting a lot of pushback on these things. So
This is the good old government, huh?
money. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the government. This is big business.
You can see where I get cranky.
Yeah. You know, it's about money, I guess. It's this crazy thing. As much as we all love money, I would hate to think that money could be that influential in our lives. But it's about producing food as inexpensively as possible. And
I get it, and I understand what you're saying, but you don't have to do it at such a cost. You don't have to do it at such a cost. You're doing it.
yeah,
You're doing it.
And it's every once in a while that this is I don't like to stand on a soapbox about my company, but I will say this. And there are a lot of products that are really, really popular that we have not brought in, and I love that because I think it's an opportunity to educate our customers. So when someone comes in and says, "Hey, you don't sell XYZ protein bar," and I'm like, "Well, that bar happens to have soy lecithin in it, and that soy lecithin is not organic or not GMO, non-GMO Project verified." So then that's a question. So now they're asking questions, and now we
Right.
have an opportunity to educate. So those are the opportunities that are out there. So we do scrutinize, and every once in a while something slips through the cracks. Something slipped through the cracks a few months ago, and I was in one of our stores, and we had an entire bread rack. I was up in Basking Ridge, and I said, I never saw that product. I turned it over, and I read the label. And I'm like, hey, I forget what the ingredient was, cornstarch or something. I can't remember. And I said, it has to go. And they're like, well, we got a whole display of it. I said, give it away. Bring, because we donate.
Cornstarch?
I think it was cornstarch. I don't remember what it was, but cornstarch,
But
obviously.
corn.
Yeah, corn wouldn't make it unless it was, those two criteria, organic or non-GMO.
So was the
verified.
fact that it was corn and it's 94% GMO?
If it doesn't have that butterfly, or if it doesn't have that USDA insignia, then it's out.
It's out.
And I said, it's out, and
It's
they
out.
said, well, they know me now well enough to know that they don't question it, and they realize, okay, we're just going to give it to the staff, or we're going to donate it to, the food bank, or to lunch break or something,
Right.
like that. So every once in a while we miss something. And that's kind of my role and responsibility. I like to walk around and stick my nose in aisles and say, hey, this is new. And, had somebody yesterday wanted to sell us a local business, which we want to support, wanted to sell us salsas. And I said, are you using organic vegetables? And he said, well, my peppers come from Mexico. And I said, are they organic? And he said, no, they're not. I said, well, then they can't come in, because not everything is organic in our stores, but when it comes to fruits and vegetables, it has to be.
Okay, so where do those fruits and vegetables come from? Like, where exactly are those fruits and vegetables in your store coming from?
They're coming from all over the world, and there's actually it's called COOP. By law, we have to put the origin of every fresh fruit and vegetable that we sell. And if we actually got, what's the word? They came in and checked all of our stuff a few months ago, and we kind of goofed on a few things. All we have to do is, like, a box of butternut squash will come with little labels on there that said, this product is from, wherever, Mexico.
Right.
And we have to put that sticker on there. And we weren't doing that. We weren't complying 100%. So they came back to us and said, okay, you need to do that. And it was a great learning opportunity for us. So every product, every fresh fruit and vegetable by law has to have the origin on it. So where's our stuff coming from? As local as possible. But obviously in New Jersey, there's a lot of seasonality.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Oh, baby, it's cold outside.
And one of the challenges that we're facing now is, we want to support as much local as possible. And, people are doing aquaponics and hydroponics, but they're not necessarily certified organic. So I had a little bit of a dilemma on my hands is, do I bring in, there's someone in Farmingdale that's doing amazing hydroponics. And I said, something, our policy is that it has to be certified organic, and I wasn't willing to bend on that. And, it was a difficult decision because I really wanted to support somebody that was hyper local.
But then they can get it, that sometimes the answer is no, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But in this particular case, they can go back and they can say, okay, Dean said no, I need to be certified organic.
Right.
They can do that. And then you guys can work together down the road. So it's not like it doesn't, it doesn't end right there.
Right. In fact, with the cafe that we're opening on Saturday, we're going to be serving, some pretty high-end premium coffee. And the guy who was providing the coffee, his product wasn't certified organic. And I said, we won't carry it. Coffee gets sprayed pretty heavily. I don't know if you know that. Coffee's pretty rough. So he went and got his certifications. He sourced organic products for us. And I was like, great. We just made a little bit of a difference there.
Exactly.
And everybody won. We support a guy who's from Little Silver, which is great. Keep it local, keep the money in town.
Yeah.
And we got what we wanted, which was a clean product.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you're familiar with, you guys are up on your stuff, the fair trade and, the concept of fair trade. So that's another thing for us. We're looking for products where farmers and harvesters are paid a livable wage from wherever they are.
Right.
So that's important to us. So one of the things, we can source organic bananas at a lower price, but we decided that we wanted to carry fair trade organic bananas so that we would, that we could influence wages for farmers. So we decided to not sell Dole organic bananas. I didn't really want the Dole. I don't have anything against Dole, but I really didn't want the Dole name in our stores.
Sure.
And sometimes when we have to source an organic banana and that's the only thing that's available, then I've softened a little bit. I'll let it come in. But I want to support small farms and people that are passionate about what they do and that are entitled to make a living. We're all entitled to make a living.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do, one of the cool things about you is that you do raise a lot of awareness, the passion, and you care about the environment and people knowing what's in their food. I know this now, but what are some of the ways that you raise awareness? Like outside, I know Mary's Place is one. We could talk about that. Events that you do in the stores to get
lots of events. I mean, we have a sign in our conference room, and I think I might have pointed it out when you came in to meet, and it says, success isn't about profit, it's about the positive impact we have on other people. So, my goal is always to use whatever little influence I have, whether it be financially or whatever, to make a positive impact on people. So Mary's Place by the Sea is a cancer respite for women in Ocean Grove. Amazing organization, amazing people. We donate their food 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then we support an organization called KYDS, KYDS, Conscious Youth Development Service, an inner city group in Asbury Park. I happen to be one of those liberally minded people who say that minorities don't get a fair shake. And this was my way of challenging my own beliefs to say I need to be there for all people. And I want to be more like a Robin Hood, where I can have an influence on and make a positive impact on people who don't necessarily get the acknowledgement or the recognition that they need. So those are the type of organizations that we want to support.
And you support me. The Whole Truth
Absolutely.
Podcast. There's my
You know
shameless
something?
plug.
You know,
I'm
yeah,
throwing out
but
my own shameless plug right here. You support
but
me,
here's
a
the
guy
thing.
who's trying to make a difference.
Well, and
Seriously, you jumped right in and helped me.
Absolutely, and why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we support any organization that's trying to make a difference? I mean, that's how we create change. We create change by acknowledging those that are in it for a bigger purpose than themselves, and are passionate about what they do. I love passion, right? I mean, when I watched your podcast, I was like, first of all, you're a natural. You just got it. You got the, you're
I don't know
great.
about that,
You're great. You're a great communicator, but you're doing the right thing, and you're doing it, I believe, for the right reasons. And how could we not support any individual or any organization who is out there trying to make positive changes in the world? I mean, that's. We can go either way, right? We
See
can
how
be,
I turned that around on you so you can start saying nice things about me on my own show? I'm just kidding.
Those are the
I'm
only
just kidding with you.
I'm only saying that because I'm afraid of the planks or the push-ups if they're coming.
No, it's about helping.
Ming, is he going to make me do the push-ups or the?
Well, you just brought it up, so here we go.
Oh no! Okay.
Yeah. So how many push-ups are we doing? I was going to save myself for basketball tonight. But
No. Listen,
who's doing the push-ups? You doing the push-ups?
We can skip it. We'll skip it. Let's talk about mindfulness.
We're going to skip the push-ups because I feel like if I have you do push-ups, I feel like I have to do push-ups, and I'm trying to be more efficient with my output.
I'm 14 years older than you, man. There should be some sort of handicap, right? Like golf, there should be a handicap.
All right. So how old are you?
I'm 58.
So you do 58 push-ups, and I'll do 44 push-ups.
Wait a second, I think you got it backwards.
So you do 44 push-ups, and I'll do 58 push-ups.
Is that the way you want to do it?
Sure.
I don't know if I can do it. I did
So
chest yesterday.
you did 44 push-ups for my age. I'll do 58 push-ups for your age.
That's a fair deal.
You want it?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. All right, let's go. We got to push ourselves. All right.
This is the worst day of my life.
No, it's not. You're good. You got 44 push-ups. I got 58.
I don't think I can do 44. Like I said, we'll see what happens.
Positive mindset.
Absolutely, man.
You can. So you know what?
Do you know David Goggins? I mentioned his name to you,
Yes,
right?
exactly. He'll tell you.
Is that unbelievable?
Yeah, he's
That guy's
unbelievable.
unbelievable, man.
So we had someone on yesterday who does EFT, emotional freedom technique, and tapping.
Yeah, that's EMDR.
Yeah, so cool.
Amazing.
So tap yourself to believing that you can do this. Even though I am uncomfortable, this is for you, Jackie Simic. Even though I'm uncomfortable with thinking about doing 44 push-ups, I will do them. I will do them.
You're doing 58. What are you talking about?
I'm doing 58. 58. You got it. All right, so let's go.
I'm excited.
58 push-ups. I'm doing 58 push-ups. I'm tired too. My God.
Oh, torture.
All right, you go first.
I'll go first.
You go first.
I need a little bit of room here for crying out loud. Hey, vacuum the carpet.
Yeah, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, halfway there, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. You got no sweat. Are you kidding me? You got.
All right.
You're gonna get your sons. You got them beat.
I don't know about that.
Running 15 miles, 20 miles, 44 push-ups. Jeez.
58. I'm watching.
I think I'm in trouble. All right, here we go. Is anyone counting?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 4, 5, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 2, 3, 4, 5, 36, 37,
Stay away
38,
from corn and soy.
39, 40, 42, 43, 44, 46, 47, 48,
Whoa.
49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58.
Whoa.
Very strong, man. Very impressive.
Got there. All
Not
right.
going to be shooting too many free throws tonight.
Oh, man. My outside shot hasn't been good these days, so I think I'll go down low.
That's a sport I can honestly say
Woo!
I don't want to see myself doing. We need to catch our breath for a minute.
Nah, we're good. Breathe.
Absolutely. I needed that.
Yeah, that's good. So, raising awareness. What else? Let me see here. What do you want to get? What do you think that's like you're real passionate about that you really would like to get into? And we can go. We're good for like another 15 minutes, but something that's like, and we can cut this part out. But something that's like, man, I want to get this off my chest.
Well, it's not so much get it off my chest. You know, there's buzzwords that I don't like to use, but spirituality, deeply spiritual, certainly, try to be as mindful as I can all the time. And I like to use my stores as a forum to raise awareness on mindfulness and that people don't necessarily have to suffer, right? That they can separate themselves from. I have to catch my breath as we're talking.
That's good.
You almost killed me, damn it.
You did great. You did that with ease.
I don't know how easy it was, but so I spend a lot of time with people talking about ways that they can, free themselves from their thoughts and things of that nature. That's the most important thing in my life.
But how do you do that? So so how do you, is that like the kids? Is that,
Well, their goal is education from the inside out.
Okay.
Right? Really trying to teach them to deal with their own challenges, but from a place from the heart, and through meditation, through mindfulness. So that's really what they're about.
Is it about like getting stuff out of your head? Like just getting stuff out of your head?
It's not getting it out of your head. It's acknowledging that it is in your head. It's accepting it. That's to me one of the most powerful words I taught my kids growing up. One of the most powerful words is acceptance. So we live in a culture of resistance.
Right.
Boxing, who can take a greater punch? Eastern philosophy, using someone else's energy to your advantage. So one of the things I might have shared with you that I share with people is I like to draw a straight line, and I say to people, "What is that?" Did I share this with you?
No, you didn't.
I draw a straight line, and people say, and I ask people, "What is that?"
I happen to have a pencil. Here, draw the straight line.
So I draw a straight line.
Draw a straight line.
I go like this. Whoops.
Oop, there goes the pencil.
No.
We got another pencil,
man?
We're
going to improvise.
Oh, we got it.
And I say to you, what is that?
That's a straight line.
Okay. So what I say is, what if I told you that those were two lines that were so close together that you couldn't differentiate one line from another? And basically, that's your true self and your thoughts. So when we lock into our thoughts, when we can't differentiate ourselves between our true self and our thoughts, we're not present, right? We're angry, we're suffering, we're not able to experience the true meaning of life, the true self. So then I go like this, and I draw two lines, and then typically someone says, well, that's two lines. And I said, yeah, but what if I told you that this was this, magnified out? So this is your self, and this is your true thoughts.
I'm still looking at the first line and trying to see the separation. My eyes are going bad because I'm not that old.
Well,
but
that's the whole point. The point is that there isn't. So we think we're our thoughts. We don't realize that our thoughts are an undisciplined mind. That's the
our
way,
thoughts
and
are not us.
We are certainly not our thoughts. They're not real. Our thoughts are not reality. Like this microphone is real. I think that some true philosophers would challenge that, but the reality is that this is real. One of the things the example I like to use is you walk past a dark alley, you look down the dark alley, and you see a bag of money, right? And you grab the money, it's like, wow, that was amazing. And every time you walk by a dark alley.
How'd you know I was Jewish?
Now, easy now. Easy now. But you walk by a dark alley.
You better believe I grabbed that money.
But you're associated that dark alley with something very positive. I walk past that same dark alley, and a couple guys come out and beat the crap out of me, right? So now you have one perception of it. I have a different perception of it. But in reality, it's just a dark alley. It's whatever our mind filters through memory, experience, and expectation. Our mind is constantly filtering and looking for something to relate to. So when we can't separate that, we typically are stuck. In Buddhism, they call it shempa, they call it a hook. We're latched onto our thoughts, and it becomes very difficult to be rational and reasonable. So the two lines represent the thought and the true self. So what I try to do is I try to live in this space all the time. And it's as simple as this. It's just awareness, right? It's acknowledging at this moment that space allows us the ability to react, right? And that's the same thing with thinking. If I can create space between myself and my thoughts, it gives me just that split second to acknowledge this isn't really me and it's not really happening to me. It's my mind playing a trick on me.
And that's where the running, the mindfulness, the meditation, that stuff, is that where you're able to kind of like, I'm still trying to grasp this a little bit. I think it's very cool. Is that just taking the time to try to like slow your mind down and I guess accepting it? You're accepting.
Listen, I absolutely. It's about acceptance. Once we accept something, then we take the ammunition away, right? Because the ego wants to push it back on us and say, you know, something, you need to make more money, you need to do this, you need to look better, you need to wear fancier clothes, you need to do all these things that create a perception of who we are. But it's just a perception, it's not reality. So there's two great, The Power of Now, which changed my life. I mean, that's where it all started for me. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now.
Power of Now.
Actually, Ram Dass wrote Be Here Now in the 70s. And I was a super anxious kid, super insecure young man, and even into my adulthood, I was terribly, terribly insecure, definitely going down the wrong road. And someone suggested, hey, get this CD, and I got the CD, and I listened to it for about 15 minutes, and I went home. My wife and kids were at the dinner table, and I said, my life just changed forever. And that was it for me, because he articulated in a way where I realized that I'm not my mind, I'm not my thoughts, and I was a very fearful young guy. And he explained fear in a way that I understood it, that it was not who it didn't create my identity. And then I listened to a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Simpson.
Okay.
And he talks about the ability to let go of things, and how when you don't let go, how your mind basically clogs up like cholesterol in your veins.
You can drive yourself crazy.
Well, you miss everything that's happening around you when you become fixated on one thing. So I like to look at my life as a window. I like to look at my life as a flower, and I like to look at my life as a window. So the window is I can put the window down and see how much resistance the wind can build before it breaks the window, which is not a very healthy thing, or I could open the window and let the wind blow right through. I can open the window of my mind and let the thoughts blow right through. So I'm constantly, every moment of every day, even if I'm not living it, even if I'm off, I'm aware that I'm off. So I'm constantly aware of myself. And, when we first met, we talked about, profanity. And, words are very, very powerful. So I choose not. I thought
sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and he dropped a couple F-bombs, and I said, that's fine. I don't care. But I said, the F-bomb is an excuse to not complete a thought and communicate it in a better way. And he's like, damn, that was pretty good. And I was
that
like,
is pretty good.
So, and it hurts people.
A lot of people like.
One of the things the other thing I like to say to people is, when you hear "thou shalt not kill," what does it mean? So most people say, well, take the life of somebody else, take the life of another being. And I like to say, well, what if you kill their hopes, and what if you kill their dreams and their aspirations, and what if you kill their spirit? I mean, which is worse, to kill somebody, from a mortality standpoint? So I always like to live in the space of, how am I impacting other people? How are my words and my actions? And I certainly slip all the time. But to me, when I think of thou shalt not kill, I can hurt other people in a lot of ways, or we can hurt a lot of people in other ways other than taking a life. To break somebody's spirit is terrible. That's a terrible thing. And just to be aware of that should significantly reduce the circumstances of which that is going to occur.
I agree with you a lot. That's a very interesting point you brought up. Words are strong.
Words are very, very strong.
Words are strong. And you may have just helped me out there. I don't curse that much, but occasionally I do.
Well,
but you're right. But I should think about how that affects other people. So I'm thankful that you said that, because now I'm going to take that seriously. And before I think about saying an F-bomb or saying some other word, which I don't much, but I do occasionally.
Right.
Now I need to be aware, self-aware, and say, you know what, John, if I say this, it might impact someone else in a negative way. So don't do it.
In order to do that, what do you need? You need space, right?
Because actual physical space?
Well, space to have time to and even if it's a nanosecond, to say, I'm not going to do that right now. Yes. And that's that space between those two lines. If you're not able to disconnect, then you're not able to have the time and the ability to make a different choice, a different decision. So it's all about being aware. They say mindfulness, the definition is living in the present moment without judgment. So being in the present moment and knowing that you're in the present moment is a conscious act in and of itself.
That is an awesome example. I love that. The two lines. I'm taking it.
Go ahead, man.
Pass it on. I'm going to try to pass it on. Well, we're going to pass it on through the show too, but that's the beauty. You learn every day. I learned something new now with the cursing. I never thought about it as far as like how that might affect. I never thought about it. And
I slip too. I mean, but and when I do, I know I have to be really, really, really upset. Right. But here's the thing: even when I do, I realize, wow, it's got its claws in me. Like there's no space now. I'm in it. I'm in the moment of anger or something where I'm not able to disconnect.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself disconnects for me.
That's where that running is huge, isn't it?
Just everything, man, from brushing my teeth to making a pot of coffee in the morning. I try to be aware of what I'm doing all the time and the impact that I'm having all the time.
Well, you have a huge impact in our society and what you're doing, not only locally, but, all around, because you're passionate, you're sincere. There's a real guy behind Dean's Natural Food Markets. And I know you don't like to, talk about, Dean's all the time, but the point is that there's a real person behind Dean's Natural Food Markets. And you said this yourself, that when you hear the C word, it's corporation. I don't look at you like a corporation. I look at you like there's a real guy. So when I walk in the Dean's, like I know I'm supporting you because I now know you. And I know how you think, and I know you want to be self-aware, and I know that you care about the environment, you care about your employees. So that's a big deal.
By the way, I know you know this, but we don't call them employees because I find there's terms that we don't even allow to be used in our workplace.
What do you call them?
They're first of all, I work for them. So one of the things I always say to them is, no one works for me. I don't own anybody. I don't possess anyone. Huh. I try not to use possessive terms like that. They're coworkers and they're teammates. Sometimes I'll say the word employee only because it fits in the moment.
Sure.
But I always try to communicate that I'm a support role for them and that they don't work for me. No one does anything for anybody. And, when we have meetings, typically we don't allow people to use the word I in a meeting. And we also like the word should or don't. Those are words that we don't allow either because they make people feel defensive. When someone comes in and says, you should sell this, I'm just like, my first reaction is there's another way to communicate that where we both take that journey together and the communication versus like making me feel like garbage if I'm saying, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, you should. It's just like, well, maybe you could have said, hey, have you ever considered this? So I'm a strange dude.
No,
you know
no.
that, man.
Well, listen, if you're strange, then I'm just as strange, if not more.
Well, that's why we get along.
But you know what? It's so funny. You're right. There's certain words that I use sometimes, and it gets to be a habit, and I say it, and I'm like, boy, that didn't work. You got to like reframe some of the things you say, and it's like, wow, that didn't work, and it becomes a habit.
And listen, I screw up every single day.
Well, we all do.
I certainly
We're
don't.
human.
I certainly don't have it down, but I'm trying. And that's all. That's all any of us can do is accept our humanness and try. And be aware of the impact that we have on others. Be aware of the impact that we have on the environment and our planet. That's the legacy, right? I mean, that's what we leave. We don't leave the money. I love making money, and I love nice things, but I won't allow those things to own me. And I never feel comfortable having more, particularly at our company, when other people have less. To me, that's just that's an imbalance which I believe creates an unhealthy environment.
Well, you're doing a great job. I support you.
appreciate it.
You support me. We support other people. It's all positive here on the Whole Truth Podcast with Dean Nelson. Thank you, sir. And with that, that is a wrap. Adios, amigos. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Wonderful time.
I appreciate it. It's good
Let's
stuff.
Let's do some push-ups.
Oh, baby.